challenge which we face in Tobago. It's a question of mismanagement of the health sector. It is not a question of you not having several highly qualified, highly competent, highly dedicated doctors, nurses, and health professionals. I will never make any broad blandishments or criticism of the health professionals. I think we have several very good, very qualified persons. It's a question of the management of it. And that responsibility falls at the feet of the TRHA, and they have been mismanaging the health sector in Tobago, and ultimate responsibility falls with the THA, which is responsible for the TRHA, and obviously Mr. Orville London ought to account to the people of Tobago for the crisis that has developed in Tobago's health sector. And I'll tell you why. When one looks at the legislation governing the regional health authorities, the Tobago Regional Health Authority is unique among all other RHAs. It's different from the Northwest Regional Health Authority. It's different from the Eastern Regional Health Authority. It's different from the North Central Regional Health Authority. It's different from the Southwest Regional Health Authority. And why is it so different? Because all those others are accountable to the Minister of Health. The Tobago Regional Health Authority has no supervening or supervisory control from the Minister of Health. It is controlled solely by the THA. So that's why I make no bones. And it's not a matter of personalities or, pointing fingers. It's just how the legislation is structured, and it puts the responsibility on the THA to manage the TRHA. So if the TRHA is failing, the THA is failing in its duty. And that's the basic fundamental problem. So unless we fix that, unless we ensure that the THA does its job of managing the TRHA properly, instead of simply coming out and saying, well, you are sorry that this has happened. If you are serious about managing it properly, if you have used taxpayers' money to pay for a big high-powered team to come up and investigate maternal deaths in Tobago. That was started in 2014. The report concluded in 2015. Up to now, you are refusing to release the report so that the public can see the results, so that we can see the recommendations, see what has to be implemented to change, to improve. Then another maternal death occurs in January 2016, and now you are going out in the public and saying, you are so sorry this happened. You could not be sorry. You could not be sorry because you are suppressing the very report which may have saved Rose Gordon's life. That maternal death report, which the THA is hiding, which the TRHA is refusing to release, and they are being actively aided and abetted by the Tobago House of Assembly in suppressing that information from the public. That may have been the thing that could have saved a life if we were to deal with it in an open, honest, transparent manner. Look at the faults, look at the problems. It's not about laying blame. Let us look at where the system is not working, and let's fix the system, not pointing fingers at individuals. We must be bigger than that. We must be more mature than that in Tobago. But unfortunately, you have a Tobago House of Assembly that tends to personalize things. They personalize everything. Anybody who makes a comment that they don't like or that they find is not praising them, they demonize you and point you as the enemy. That is so immature. And unless Tobagonians wake up and open their eyes and recognize that we will never get anywhere if we don't move beyond personalities and start looking at policies, principles, procedures, and practices, those 4 P's, and forget the last P, which is personalities. But what we do in Tobago, everything they personalize. So therefore, somebody is talking out about the health sector, they personalize it and say that person is against us, that person doesn't like us. So then they rally their supporters and say, look, that is our enemy. That's so silly, childish, and puerile. We can never develop as a society if we continue that way. They personalize things even in the education sector. When you had teachers who said, well, look, we are contract teachers, we are not getting our rights. From what I understand, personal calls were made by members of the House of Assembly to teachers, telling them, well, you better drop out of that action. if you want your benefits. We can't progress as a society that way. We must look at issues and forget personalities and petty, personalization of issues and politicking with those things.
Okay, Mr. George, at this time we don't to Rise and Shine News breaks. We go for Rise and Shine News and return.
Cosmetics, nail and hair accessories, wigs, braids, weaves, from human to synthetic textiles. Visit the Hair Sanctuary for all your hair needs. Rejuvenate your hair, stimulate hair growth with specialized prophylactic and hair care products. Treat your crown to an authentic Jamaican mango and lime experience. We also stock professional barber and hair salon equipment. The Hair Sanctuary, Rollox Building, corner Main and Robinson Street, Uptown, Scarborough.
Good morning, Tobago. Thank you for joining us today, Monday, January 18th, 2016, for the Rise and Shine Morning News. A promise for a new airport terminal for the island, despite falling revenue, came from the Prime Minister this week. The promise came when he addressed the first quarterly business dinner and reception of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce on the need to boost the island's tourism industry. The A&R Robinson Airport in Crown Point has long been a sore point in the tourism sector. It is a cited reason for Virgin Atlantic's first withdrawal from the service to Tobago. They are presently back. Other airlines and customers expressed displeasure about the condition of the airport and its inadequacies. Lack of a VIP lounge, duty-free shopping, and little space to handle the influx of guests on the island. Work is currently ongoing, but to the Prime Minister, it is inadequate.
What is going to come out of this upgrade that is taking place at A&R Airport is not the infrastructure to treat with what Tobago should be doing in terms of receiving a certain amount of traffic, a certain number of tourists.
The upgrade was initiated by the People's Partnership Government and will include the roof, electrical system, as well as a facelift.
Whatever happens with the current upgrade, there's a need for a proper terminal building in Tobago.
In determining what form the new terminal will take and also what needs to be done in Tobago with regards to tourism, the Prime Minister has tasked the Chief Secretary with a mission to guide the process.
And I want him and a small group of people to make a small trip in the Caribbean in the next 6 months and have a look at 4 areas which I identified and come back to Tobago and determine whether in fact we in Tobago are maximizing our potential.
Dr. Rowley has also committed to assisting with improving the room stock on the island. He does maintain, however, that Tobagonians are the secret to making tourism a success if they are able to change their attitudes and improve their customer service. Candice Jackson, Channel 5 News. On Friday, 21 contract workers of the Tobago Affairs Unit, formerly the Ministry of Tobago Affairs, received notices of immediate termination. Attorney at law for some of the workers, Ms. Chrislyn Moore, spoke out against the move, citing many of these workers were given contracts ending 2018. Since October 2015, approximately 300 contract workers in the former ministry have been sent packing after what is being termed short-term contracts were not renewed. Via a release today, the Office of the Prime Minister clarified newspaper reports and said in essence, the government is not committed to keeping contract workers on and assures no job losses for public servants. Contract workers are not considered public servants. The release also reiterated that a committee was set up to transition some portfolios into the THA, as his administration will not support anything that undermines the THA or creates any duplication of functions in Tobago. The former Ministry of Tobago Development was described by the THA as a ministry set up by the People's Partnership Administration to encroach upon the Assembly. Today, brief showers will interrupt sunny conditions for most of the day. 1 or 2 showers are expected overnight. Today's temperatures should reach a maximum of 31 degrees Celsius and a fall to 25 degrees Celsius. Thank you for joining us for the Rise and Shine News. Join Raynell at 6:30 for the full Channel 5 newscast. Enjoy the day.
When you need electronics, find what you want quickly at TED Electronics. We have tons of brand name items in smartphones, tablets, LCD and smart TVs, headphones and speakers. For the best in electronics, check TED. Amazing service and the lowest prices guaranteed. Located upstairs Moosehead Plaza, Bethany Road, Tobago. TED Electronics, your ideal choice for electronics.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Viet. On set with me to continue this course, Mr. Martin George, eminent lawyer, Tobagonian, and Tobagonian. Mr. George, before we went on the break, we were talking about, as you say, the mismanagement of the health sector and reports that were procured on, large sums of money.
Of the public's money.
Of public's money.
Public's money was used for it, and yet the public
cannot
know the findings of the investigation.
Is there any legal means? Is there any way that the public can force the hand of the RHA, the THA to get this information?
Well, you have the Freedom of Information Act, whereby applications can be made to try to force these authorities to give the relevant documentation. But they have clearly stated that they do not intend to release it. So even if you make the application, then clearly they are going to deny it. So you will then now have to file a high court action under the Freedom of Information Act to then get a court order to force them to reveal the information. So you're looking at a long process, a costly process to get that done. And I want to draw to the attention of the Tobago House of Assembly and the Tobago Regional Health Authority the statements of Justice Frank C. Prasad in the case of Chantal Williams versus the TRHA. In that case, the TRHA had told Ms. Williams that to get access to her medical records, she needed to file an application under the Freedom of Information Act. And the judge chastised the TRHA publicly and spoke in relation to all other public hospitals and public health institutions. And he said that is not proper practice. He said persons ought not to have to resort to the Freedom of Information Act to get access to medical records and information which should be made freely and easily available to them. So by that same learning which he gave in that matter of Chantal Williams versus the TRHA, I am calling upon the TRHA now, follow the guidance which the judge gave you in that matter and do not resort to asking people to go under the Freedom of Information Act to have this maternal deaths report released. This is a major issue. If you have a young pregnant mother in Tobago, where is she going to go? Is she supposed to fly down to Trinidad to go to Mount Hope or to go to Port of Spain General to have her baby when we are supposed to have the newest hospital facility functioning in Trinidad and Tobago? The newest functioning hospital facility is the Scarborough Hospital. So why is it that we cannot get a sufficient standard of healthcare delivery at that hospital? Why is it that you continue to suppress and hide the information from the public of Tobago, not wanting to reveal the contents of the report, and yet still, when something like this happens, these same people are on television shedding crocodile tears and saying, you know, they're so sorry, and they're offering grievance counseling for the family. The family doesn't want grievance counseling. What the family wants is that if you act on the report and you prevent another death occurring, because I tell you, this is not the end of it, because if you don't fix the system, it's going to continue to malfunction over and over again. So maybe next year this time, we'll be sitting talking about yet another maternal death at the Scarborough Hospital, and I think maybe only then the public will wake up and realize that we have to force the authorities, force the TRHA, force the Tobago House of Assembly to take responsibility for this. I lay this fully at their feet. I lay it at the feet of the THA and I say, you are responsible here. You have failed in your duties. The law gives you the duty and responsibility. They keep clamoring about wanting to manage Tobago. You want internal self-government, and you simply cannot even manage an institution like the TRHA. You look at the board, you look at whether they have all the competencies relevant to proper, effective management of the health sector in Tobago. Clearly they don't. Are there any institutional structures that they've put in place, even within the THA itself, for proper oversight and regulation, even for procurement issues? They're talking about building a facility up in the eastern end of Tobago. But is there proper discussion? Do they have the proper consultation, the experts who will come in and give us the best possible advice as to what is needed? That is not being done. It's ad hoc, vai, and it's like, each person is doing their own thing. So therefore, as a result, there is a major crisis in the health sector in Tobago because of the mismanagement of it by the TRHA and the lack of proper oversight and supervision by the THA.
Okay, let's chat a little about the board, the TRHA board. 9 members, two have resigned. The last one being a medical practitioner,
specialist. That's right.
Medical specialist who is supposed to be on the board, but. Some legal circles say that the board must not be less than 7 persons. Is it properly constituted?
Well, the thing is, I think if you look at the strict interpretation, it says not less than 7 persons, and from what I understand, they do have 7 persons. But you see, the point is, what you have to look at is the competencies and capabilities of the persons. You have an acting chairman there. Is this person a qualified medical specialist who is able to lead with that authority to be able to make the relevant decisions for the improvement of the healthcare system in Tobago? You look at the other members of the board. You ask yourself, do they represent the best and brightest that Tobago has to offer? You ask yourself this. I mean, we have looked for the national consultation on reforming the RHAs, all the regional health authorities. Look who's heading that. A brilliant Tobagonian. That's Mr. Welch. He is heading that body. And he is well respected in his field. We have so many other Tobagonians of excellent caliber, potential, but the point is, it's all down now to a question of political favoritism and political patronage, and therefore you do not get the best and brightest coming forward because it's simply a game of politics and who is your friend, who is your family, who is your neighbor, and that's how things are done in Tobago. We need to change the system of how we function in Tobago.
Okay, and let me just tell Tobagonians and our listeners that the Mr. Welch you refer to Dr. Welch, but they say that...
that's right, yes. When you've reached the level of specialization, you move from being a doctor to a mister. Yes. So just for the information of the public, it is Dr. Welch, but he's reached to such heights in his profession, he's now referred to as Mr. Welch.
Right, and he lives at Rockley Vale, just opposite Rockley Vale Junction there. Yeah, want to be a good boy. Right. For the next few minutes, I want us to talk about some economic development for Tobago. And Dr. Rowley was in Tobago last week, and he mentioned, he met with the Tobago House of Assembly and other entities, but he mentioned, took note of something. Tobago has economic potential. And he said that there are 4 things that we have to be concerned with in Tobago. The terminal building is one, the A&R Robinson terminal building, and you know, we always feel that on entering the country, it leaves an indelible mark on one's mind, what you see when you first land. And it does leave an indelible mark on people who come to Tobago's mind, because many of them may not return, you know, due to the hassle down there, right? And it should ensure greater activity, greater economic activity in Tobago. He talk about the hotel room stock and what can be done. He also talk about the Studley Park, quarry being an economic entity that can be a major contributor to income to Tobago. Your thoughts on
well, the thing is, what I would like to find out from the leaders of the Tobago House of Assembly, what is their plan to develop the economic potential of Tobago? Because we all agree that there's the potential. But if you don't have a plan, a people without a vision will surely perish. So in other words, what's your vision for this economic development for Tobago? What are you doing to actualize this, apart from mouthing nice phrases on a political platform and making empty promises? We need to see that you are serious, that you actually know where you are going, so therefore you can then lead us. Otherwise we'll end up like the Israelites, wandering around in the desert for 40 years, lost, and not even knowing that we lost. Because that's the situation in Tobago. You look at it, just last night you saw on the television where the scuba dive sector, the diving sector is complaining. They're saying, listen, business is up in other islands in the Caribbean, but in Tobago it's significantly down. Is it that we don't have the potential? No, we have the potential. But the point is, what they are saying is, they're saying, listen, we know we have to do our part, but is it being matched by what the authorities are doing? In other words, what's your marketing plan for Tobago? Where, listen, you see Tobago branded nowhere internationally. It is not recognized internationally in any significant way. On the major cable channels, you would see St. Kitts and Nevis advertising. You would see Barbados all the time, you know. You see St. Lucia. Where is Tobago? Who knows about Tobago? The point is, you have a tourism division that doesn't even have a clue as to what tourism is about. They don't even understand the product, but they're always at a trade show or tourism because it's a free flight, it's a nice hotel, and they get to go Walmart and, you know, Kmart, and you do their shopping, you know. So therefore, it's a nice jaunt. But at the end of the day, what is the real benefit that Tobago gets from all these trade shows that you see them going to and all these tourism, you know, because clearly they're not learning anything. If you're not able to improve your product, then what's the point? I've always said, and on every board or public authority that I've sat on, even like, for instance, our Crime Stoppers board, I've said the purpose of going to an overseas conference is to bring back knowledge and value, which you can now add to your organization. If you are not doing that, then it's a joyride. I'm sorry, I make no apologies for saying so. If you are not bringing back content to add value to the organization, then you are wasting the time and the money of those who sent you. And I think that has been the history of the persons responsible for tourism in Tobago, because they always offer the cruise ship show and everything they offer, but they haven't a clue as to what they're doing. You heard Mr. Chris James, president of the Hotel Association, lamenting the fact that occupancy is deplorably low in Tobago. So even to talk about adding to your room stock, I'm not sure that that is your first call, because if the rooms you have now you can't even fill, what's the point of adding to room stock? You see, so therefore that alone shows you how our leaders don't